The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
All right, it is time once again. Sunday night, and it's, not football night. It is Wrestling Unwrapped, episode number 27, as the guys travel back to October 13, 2012, and discuss Glory by Honor 11 from Ring of Honor. They'll talk about that in just a little bit.
Suffer unto me, Avenue F. That was the Prodigy Mike Bennett's theme song in Ring of Honor. Obviously, the Prodigy no longer with the company. However, we are with the company as we make our maiden voyage into a legitimate Ring of Honor show here on Wrestling Unwrapped. I'm Harry Broadhurst, and now for the proper introduction, here is your host, Patrick Ketza.
You just gave half the damn thing anyway. But indeed, thank you, Harry, and welcome in to Wrestling Unwrapped, episode number 27, I think.
7, yes.
Or no, 28, sorry. It's episode 28, which, by the way, Sean, we're going to talk about that after. And yes, tonight we will head to Ring of Honor for the very first time as they go and make one of their rare shows up in Canada, up to Missisauga, Ontario, Canada. For argument's sake, let's just do what they did and call it Toronto. And it is Glory by Honor 11, the Unbreakable Hope. Obviously, that one should give you a clue as to who is in the main event here. It will be Unbreakable Michael Elgin going up against the SCUM leader and the Ring of Honor World Champion, Kevin Steen. Not yet, always. So it should be a very, very fun night. Sorry about the late start, guys. Things happen. And stuff indeed happens here, but we are here now.
Hold on. You keep going in and out.
I just sent him a Facebook message with the same thing. He's got to find that sweet spot where he does this thing, because I can barely hear him.
Yeah.
I literally am not moving.
Well, now I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know if you're moving the phone away from your mouth sometimes or something, but that's what it sounds like. It sounds like your phone's like moving back and forth.
Alrighty, then I will not move from my current position, even though I legitimately haven't moved. So, let me try that again.
Now we can hear you, though, so it all works out. Missisauga, Ontario, Canada. We'll call it suburban Toronto and make it easier on all of us, because if you think it's difficult to say Missisauga, try spelling the damn thing. I don't think
M-I-S-S-I-S-S-A-U-G-A.
Get soon hype.
2/3 of it is the same as Mississippi.
Well, yeah, but
anyway.
Would this be mixed water then? Because I know agua is the Spanish word for, well, that would be aqua, I suppose. No, it's agua. We're getting way off track and we haven't even started. Hi, Patrick.
Who started this one? Anyway. So, yes, it's a case in Ring of Honor where SCUM reigns supreme as they currently hold not only the World Championship, as Kevin Steen holds it, but also the Tag Team Championships, as Steve Corino and Jimmy Jacobs, the Zombie Princess, I don't know why, hold the tag team titles. And I'm finding a common theme here with 2012 ROH and where people are currently employed, but we'll talk about that one later.
Yeah, there's a surprisingly high number of people that are no longer with the company on this show.
Actually, a really surprisingly high amount now that I look at the card.
Going down through what I've seen, as of right now, I think I've seen like 3 people that are currently still employed by Ring of Honor.
That's a scary number, and there's 2, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. There's 22 on this card. 23 if you include Maria. 25 if you include commentators.
Yeah, I don't think either. Well, one of them is still with the company. The other one's not.
That's my point. Anyway, so why don't we quit the jibber jabber here, because there is a football game that at least one of us wants to see, right?
I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm only watching because my girlfriend is. I have it on in the background. Unlike what happened with the reaction this week, where I found myself legitimately drawn into that Clemson and Alabama game and was talking about it during the reaction. This one right here, I have no dog in this fight.
Yeah, boy, you and I made out like bandits on the W2M Network Pick'em League for the bowl games, as you and I. Congrats on your win. I think I mentioned this last week.
You talked about the fact that if Clemson won, I won outright. Well, you don't know how that ended.
Yep, you came out with the outright victory, and I came out with the outright second place, surprisingly. So, suck on it, Sean. We're better at predicting than football to the max.
I would just like to take this chance to point out that during the college league I got wrecked, but that's because my computer crapped out on me like halfway through the season. All right, enough stalling. You ready for some results here, Patrick?
Indeed, and well, real quick, we probably should also mention the fact that we are a presentation of the aforementioned W2M Network. So, if you want to find out more information, including past shows and now our written reviews of previous shows, be sure to check out W2Mnet.com. Now that
Wrestling Unwrapped is also sponsored by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. If you're a fan of anything wrestling, DVDs, action figures, magazines, posters, VHS tapes, pretty much anything you can think of, you name it, he probably has it. That is stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement on Wrestling Unwrapped and receive a free gift with your purchase.
Thank you for that, Harry. And now we'll go back to Harry with the results for Glory by Honor. And take it away.
All right, as Sean mentioned when he opened the show, it is October 13th, 2012. I do not remember what this arena was called.
You got me now. I don't remember.
Like, I think they might have shown it in a little graphic at the bottom of the screen at the start of the show, but I don't think Kevin Kelly or Nigel ever actually outright say what the title of the building is.
I don't think so either.
All right, well, as I just mentioned, your commentators for this show are the aforementioned Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness. That's one of the people still with the company and one of the people not. Congrats on the WWE gig, Nigel. Long overdue. Anywho, it is October 13th, 2012. We are in Missisauga, Ontario, Canada, suburban Toronto. This is the ROH Glory.
Real quick. UGA, not GUA. It's Auga, not Agua. Missisauga.
Oh. I have been pronouncing it wrong this entire time. And I mean even before we started doing the show. That might explain why...
You've been calling her crab apple!
That might explain why I keep getting a spelling error from my typing program, too, when I try to type the intro for the review. Anywho,
yes.
These are your results for Glory by Honor 11 from Ring of Honor. As I said, our maiden voyage into Ring of Honor proper, other than the Bloodstained Honor DVD. The CNC Wrestle Factory of Cedric Alexander and Caprice Coleman defeat the Bravado Brothers of Lancelot and Harlem at 12 minutes and 17 seconds when Cedric pins Lancelot with a frog splash. And yes, I can tell them apart.
Okay. Okay.
the Prodigy, Mike Bennett, whose theme song you heard to kick us off here, Suffer Unto Me, with Maria Kanellis, defeats Mike Mondo at 10:51 with a TKO. I think he called it the box office smash. I might be wrong on that.
No, I think they still called it the TKO.
All right, so then the box office smash was his version of the Uranagi then. The world's greatest tag team of Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin defeat BJ Whitmer and Rhett Titus. Were they of SCUM at this point?
No.
Okay, so then Titus wouldn't join SCUM until afterwards. Okay. At 10 minutes and 12 seconds when Haas pins Whitmer after a double-team powerbomb.
And I believe also a kick that would make Mason Crosby proud.
What?
I said I believe also after a kick that would make Mason Crosby proud.
Jay Lethal defeats Davey Richards by KO with the Kochi clutch at 23 minutes and 31 seconds. Darius Thomas defeats Rhino with an Oklahoma roll at 5:58. Adam Cole retains the Ring of Honor television title, pinning Eddie Edwards at 19:09 with the Florida Key. It's what he calls the X-Plex, the crossover German suplex. SCUM, the aforementioned team of Jimmy Jacobs and Steve Corino, retain the tag team titles after Jimmy Jacobs pinned Jay Briscoe with a victory roll. I'm pretty sure he punted him in the little Jimmys right before the roll-up as well at 13:57. And your main event sees Kevin Steen retain the Ring of Honor heavyweight title, pinning Unbreakable Michael Elgin with an avalanche package pile driver at 31 minutes and 30 seconds. Patrick?
Thank you very much, Harry. So, 8 matches to get through here as I sit back down. So, this should be one hell of a show, as always. So, what do you say we get right into it?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So, what happens when SCUM takes over a house built on honor? We're going to find out, and then find out what someone else who's not in the company right now has in store for the world champion. This is Ring of Honor Glory by Honor 11, the Unbreakable Hope. Gosh, that's a really long name.
Yeah, they were just coming out of the Jim Cornette era, and Cornette was notorious for having those super long names with subtitles.
Yeah. I believe they'd also call another one State of Emergency. Anyway, so kicking things off here is actually a rematch from ROH Caged Hostility, as Jerry mentioned, the Bravado Brothers, Harlem and Lancelot, take on the CD Wrestle Factory. I don't believe they were known by that yet, though. A team of Caprice Coleman and Cedric Alexander. And this was pretty much telling 4 guys, go out there and get the crowd into it. And get the crowd into it, they really did. And just a really fast-paced, somewhat high-flying match. Not as much as I think Cedric would become known for. And unfortunately, here we are 5 years later. I haven't really heard a lot about Caprice Coleman. Coleman
was, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that Coleman was involved in the Veda Scott storyline at ROH over the course of the last year or two, but I cannot say that for certain. I have not had an opportunity to watch a lot of Ring of Honor lately. I've done most of my stuff when it comes to ROH has been reading results online and such and occasionally catching the television show.
Yeah, he was involved in that for a little bit with Cedric Alexander, but mainly he's been doing the cabinet with Rhett Titus and Kenny King or whatever, and then they changed it to something else after the election, which I don't remember what it's called.
Revolution or something?
Yeah, something like that.
How nice of Kenny King to come back to ROH a third time. Good for him.
They needed tag teams that bad.
Clearly, if they're willing to rehire him and get after as many, he doesn't just burn bridges. He nukes entire cities when he leaves companies on occasion. But anyways,
Yeah.
Kenny King's not on this show, so we don't have to discuss him.
You sound happy about that.
It's not that I dislike Kenny. It's that we need to focus on getting through this show itself because, we don't want to go 2.5 hours again.
This is true.
Yeah, I agree with you in the regards that these four guys were basically told to go out there and get the crowd hot for this show here. Because honestly, when you look at the rest of the matches on the card, the only other one that I really would have slotted into this opening slot here would have been Adam Cole and Eddie Edwards. Because nothing else, in my opinion, would have really fit in this slot here. Because you had the world's greatest tag team winning their match against Whitmer and Titus and their heels. You had the actual tag team title match ending with a kick to the balls before a victory roll. So this right here was the best way that they could send out four wrestlers, have the baby faces win to keep the crowd hot, and send out four more than competent athletes in order to get the crowd engaged in what was about to happen for the rest of the night.
Yeah, indeed. And we probably should also, like I said, I mentioned it already, this is an IPPV, so they're kind of going to want to try and keep, I would say, spirits up throughout the entire night. I don't know if this was a strictly in-house IPPV or if this was still Go Fight Live. And the reason I bring that up is due to a comment that Kevin Steen will make by the end of the night, and I'll bring it up when I get there because I had no choice but to laugh when I heard it. But getting back to this one, this was kind of the definition of an opener, or the definition of what you want in an opener, and that's just four guys go out there, have a good, fast-paced match to get the crowd into the show. And at least in this case, they got time with it. About 12 minutes, I believe you said. So they got, a decent amount of time here to go out and kind of show what they're able to do. And in this case, at least for one of them being obviously Cedric Alexander, he's still young, and we haven't even seen the best of him yet. As we know now, over 4 years later, just what he is capable of. So it's great to see where he was in the beginning to where he is now.
Yeah, Caprice Coleman was definitely the veteran of his team there. And honestly, you can make the same comment as far as what they were doing then compared to what they're doing now for Harlem and Lancelot Bravado as well, because those guys have turned into an excellent tag team too. Their runs in Ring of Honor as well in Shikara here in the States prepared them for their run over in Japan, and now, as I understand it, they just recently got signed by TNA, and hopefully with everything working out with the Fight Network and Anthem Sports purchasing TNA, they'll be able to get an opportunity to have a decent run in the TNA tag team division, because in my opinion, the Bravado Brothers are one of the most underrated tag teams in the scene today.
See, I'm kind of on and off as a fan of the Bravado Brothers. When they're good, they're good. When they're not, they're kind of eh. And I'm thinking back to, one show that I saw where the crowd was so not into them that the crowd legitimately called, and it's escaping me which one was which, was calling one of them Pedro because Napoleon Dynamite had just come out. It was calling the other one Justin Bieber.
To be fair, Harlem does look like Justin Bieber.
So then Lancelot would have been Pedro.
That sounds accurate to me. Real quick here, also as far as the CNC Wrestle Factory, you mentioned that they were not quite yet CNC Wrestle Factory. It is what they would become there, and it's what I know them better as a tag team. Coleman's actually a Ring of Honor elder statesman at this point. He would have debuted in Ring of Honor back in 2005. He wouldn't have been a regular in Ring of Honor, but his debut would have been significantly before Cedric's.
I legitimately didn't realize that Caprice Coleman had been around that long.
I want to say that even by this point, Coleman's probably in his late 30s, early 40s. While you give your next thought here, I'll go ahead and look that up. Go ahead and continue.
I mean, I'm actually just about done, so.
All right, then we can move on to the next match here. So, you know how ROH moved all their theme songs to in-house in order to be able to play the music on iPay-per-view without having to edit stuff out for the DVD releases and without having to edit stuff for television and such with Sinclair?
Yes, I'm aware.
Mike Bennett's Suffer Unto Me may be my favorite ROH theme song of all time.
That's your opinion. No, it's not mine. It's a good one. It's a very good one, and I know you like it a lot. It's not the best one to me, but that's an argument we don't need to have.
Caprice Coleman was 35 at the time of this show.
Wow.
Cedric Alexander was 23.
So he's where he is now, and he's only 28.
27.
Right, we are only 15 days into the year.
Indeed. But, all right, so back to this storyline. This whole storyline focused around Mike Mondo, a.k.a. Mikey! You had to know that reference was coming.
Oh, it absolutely was, because I was going to make it myself.
But anyways, this has to do with Mike Mondo's obsession with Maria Kanellis. And, well, frankly, who can really blame him? Hashtag that ass. Anywho, back to the match at hand here. Bennett wins with a TKO at 10 minutes and 51 seconds after I'm pretty sure Mike Mondo breaks his leg.
Are we talking about the stage dive?
The dive off of the entrance area? Yes, that is exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah. So we should. I want to mention one thing about the promo beforehand. Boy, it's weird seeing Beta Scott look so innocent. But speaking of butts, yeah, the entire point of this rivalry is basically the entire idea of anyone who's had a female valet in the last 30 years, and that is one guy's obsessed over the female valet, and the one who has the female valet doesn't appreciate it.
Although, interestingly, the heel-face dynamics are switched in this particular instance here, as it's Mike Mondo who is a babyface and Mike Bennett who is a heel.
I can think of one other time that happened.
Hogan, Liz, and Savage?
Bingo! Although, to be fair, Hogan, and I can't believe I'm saying this, was innocent in that one. This one, Mike Mondo ain't innocent.
I don't know. Hogan did have lust in his eyes, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to the show at hand.
Anyway, I mean, this match is advertised as a grudge match, and it is a grudge match, but if you're going to blow off something like this, don't let it be 7.5 minutes. But
it wasn't 7.5. Where did you get 7.5 from? The final time on the match is 10:51.
I thought I heard you say 7.5. Oops. All right.
No, I said 21:45 for opening bell, 32:36 for the closing bell.
All right. Well, never mind that point then, because truth be told, though, I don't know if it was me watching it or what. It felt a little bit short, so I'm actually surprised that you said that it was almost 11 minutes. It felt short to me. Not in a bad way. You know, they pretty much went about 90 miles an hour throughout the entire match, and yeah, there's kind of an elephant in the room here because of the fact that Mikey, at one point, and I can't even of anybody off the top of my head. I'm sure it's happened, but off the top of my head, I cannot think of anyone who's actually done what Mike Mondo did, and that is climb up the entranceway and dive off from the top of it. And the reason that he nearly breaks his ankle is because he probably catches Mike Bennett with about 5% of his body, because he largely whiffs on this dive. And of course you can't redo it, so they have to try and play it up, but Mondo misses him pretty badly.
Do you remember Taz and Sabu on Raw when the ECW invasion and Sabu fell off of the Raw entrance ramp?
Yeah? Or wait, did you say Sabu fell off? Yes.
Yes, Sabu fell off the Raw entrance. That's the only other time that I can think of that somebody's come off of an entrance set, the actual entrance set there. And
well, there's one I can think of, but it's not one we want to talk about. Someone who took a dive off the top of the Titantron.
Is that a Sting Vampiro reference?
No. Titantron. Not Turnertron, Titantron.
And I'm drawing a blank.
Would include that. I'll put it to you like this. LOD 2000.
Oh, God. Really? You gotta bring up that angle? You gotta bring up the draw picture angle, really? Alright, anyways, back to us.
Anyway.
But to what you're saying about the whole Mike Mondo off of the entrance ramp thing there, yeah. Visually an impressive spot if he would have actually landed flush. And I think part of that might have been out of concern for his fellow competitor's safety, and I think part of that might have been he got a case of the liver tail while he was up there and decided, oh crap, am I really going to do this?
I mean, to be fair, yeah, it's absolutely a hell of a spot to even attempt it. But if you're getting, what was it, liver tail that you called it, all of a sudden, being at the top of the entranceway is not the best time to get that. And it's great, if he is taking Bennett's safety into his consideration. That's great, that's admirable. But you also have to take yours a little bit. In that case, you have to be a little bit selfish in that you have to expect your partner, your opponent, to be able to catch you. And that one just, it did not look good. I was worried for Mondo after as well.
Can I also give credit to Jerry Lawler, 2K12, and Nigel McGuinness for his celebration of Maria on the ring apron?
Jesus.
Don't get me wrong. Nigel was perving over Maria the entire match. And again, hard to blame him. Hashtag that ass. But, and I mean but metaphorically here, not literally in this instance, even though we are talking about Maria's. Just something about the way Nigel responded when Maria started dancing just cracked me up.
God.
I don't think Nigel got the credit that he deserves as the color commentator in Ring of Honor. I think Carino was more entertaining by and large, but I think Nigel was underrated.
I'll say this. This weekend, I got a lot of Nigel McGuinness commentary.
No spoilers, dude. Haven't had a chance to watch it.
Oh, no. I'm not going to spoil that, but I'm just saying, I had a lot of Nigel McGuinness commentary this weekend. But, yeah, it's funny, like, as soon as Maria jumps onto the apron, Nigel just goes, Mondo, get the hell out of the way! But, yeah, so Mike Bennett ends up winning via the TKO. After a pretty good brawl, I do wonder if the fact that Mondo may not have been able to fully walk after the match, if they weren't supposed to go longer a little bit maybe, but still a very, very hard-fought match here. It's good to see Mike Bennett will be improving upon where he came.
I'm going to credit Jake St. Pierre here. I have his review up in the background as we're doing this show, so that way it can remind me of some of the little details I may have forgotten otherwise. The dive off the entranceway may have been unnecessary, but overall these two turned into a great little fight. It sucks that Mondo is reportedly out for a year due to a broken tibia, but you have to respect that man for proving himself in numerous matches, whether they're against guys like Davey Richards or guys like Mike Bennett. He truly personified Ring of Honor in his work ethic, and if you can't respect that, then you do not know what wrestling is about. So yeah, Mondo did mess up his leg on that dive off the entranceway.
Yeah. So, like I said, absolutely admirable of him to even go ahead and do that. And this, now that I think about it, I could be 100% wrong. This may be his last match in Ring of Honor.
I think you are 100%. I don't believe he ever came back from the broken leg in Ring of Honor. Although, wasn't he a part of the Spirit Squad? Was it him and Kenny that made up the Spirit Squad reunion in the WWE?
I know Kenny was one of them.
I want to say the other one was Mike Mondo, because I remember something about I remember something about Nick Mitchell not being available, and the other member of the Spirit Squad living in frickin' Japan or something now, and not even as a wrestler though. He still just does he's doing like rehabilitational work or something.
It very well could have been. I'm kind of putting that out of my mind, so it'll take a moment for me to find that one.
All right, but moving on.
Moving on, indeed, it is. We go from one bunch match to another, as it is it's wrestling world. They're not anyway greatest tag team of Shelton X Benjamin versus Charlie Hassel, and they're facing Rhett Titus and the buzzsaw BJ Whitmer. And
sorry. First of all, thank you for correcting me. They are wrestling's greatest tag team at this point, not the world's greatest tag team.
Either way, they're neither. They're neither.
At this point in the Ring of Honor runs, no, they are not. I think the thing about the World's Greatest Tag Team when they came into Ring of Honor is that they had all of these amazing tag teams to work with. They had the All Night Express of Kenny King and Rhett Titus, who, let's be honest, without Kenny King, Rhett Titus is kind of a nobody when it comes to tag team wrestling. And I hate to say that, because I do enjoy Rhett Titus, but I just don't think he's very, I don't think he's very entertaining on his own. But when...
Wait, here's my question. How do you feel about the romantic touch?
And I get the whole reasoning behind the masked gimmick thing and everything there. I never got into it. I knew it was Titus. I just never got into it.
Oh, it's easy when the initials are the same. Anyway, carry on.
Back to what I was saying about Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, though. Like I was saying there, with the All Night Express, as well as their matches with the Briscoes and their matches with the Kings of Wrestling when they first came into Ring of Honor, they reestablished themselves as being one of the elite tag teams in the professional wrestling world when they first came into the company. However, as those teams kind of faded away or moved on to other things, Kenny King leaving for TNA, the Briscoes ending up in the feud with SCUM, the Kings of Wrestling, Claudio getting signed, and Hero leaving Ring of Honor, it kind of left Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team to feud with the underbelly of Ring of Honor Tag Team division there. And I enjoy Shelton Benjamin. I find Charlie Haas incredibly boring. And I always have.
It also didn't help that, real quick, it also didn't help by the fact that at this point, Charlie Haas is becoming incredibly hostile towards the crowd.
He's becoming hostile towards wrestling in general. I don't think he would end up around in wrestling for very much longer after this show, because wouldn't he go on a tirade of the show and then announce his retirement shortly after this?
Maybe.
To Wikipedia I go while we continue the show. Carry on, give your thoughts on this match.
I mean, in terms of this one, it's not a wrestling match. This one was just a out-and-out brawl for the most part. This was not living up to Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, and their name. And at this point, I want to say B.J. Whitmer was a replacement for Kenny King. Was it at this point that Kenny King had signed with TNA, or was he out injured? I believe he had signed with TNA at this point.
I mean, this probably strikes me as around the time that he went back to TNA. The original jump to TNA was significantly before this.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's jumped more ships than probably Gail can. Because I think Kenny King went ROH, TNA, ROH, WWE Developmental, TNA, ROH, and that's where he is now. So this may have been during one of the TNA runs. I don't know. So in this case, they're kind of stuck with, okay, what do we do with Rhett Titus? Because Kenny King left almost right in the middle. This would have been when he jumped ship to TNA because he badmouthed Cornette on his way out. I forgot about that. So this would have been a TNA run. So they're kind of stuck with, okay, how do we finish off Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team versus the All Night Express? And this was one of the ways that they did it, and this wasn't great. This was pretty much just a brawl. And it.
Nothing good, nothing bad here, just kind of there. Nothing stands out about the work by any of the four individuals involved, which is unfortunate when you consider the talent levels of a couple of the people in this match, and I specifically refer to B.J. Whitmer and Shelton Benjamin when I say that, because I have made it very well known that I am a fan of Shelton Benjamin's work, and Whitmer is one of the nicest guys in the pro wrestling business, and it's just a shame that he could never really find his footing when it came to a company like Ring of Honor, and especially on his return. Because when it came to like the smaller independent promotions, such as your AIWs, your AAWs, and even his original run in IWA Mid-South, he stood out as being one of the best people on the card. Charlie Haas retired on March 30th, 2013, working occasional dates since. So about 5 months after the show is when Haas retired. So yeah, he was very close to the end. Patrick.
Yeah, I'm here, sorry. I wasn't sure if you were done.
Yep, I was done.
Okay. So, yeah, this match was kind of just bad. So, we move on to a rematch of the finals of the 2012 Survival of the Fittest tournament. And, boy, is this going to be an interesting one to talk about, because there's kind of an elephant in the room that bears mentioning in terms of this next match, which is Jay Lethal taking on the American Wolf, Davey Richards. Mostly due to the timing of this match.
Okay, I have a couple of questions about this Wolf. Is one part of this Wolf the fact that Jay Lethal beat up Jim Cornette? Because frankly, that was hilarious.
No. Well, kind of, yeah. It has to do with that and what caused that. Because I believe that was legitimately 1 week prior.
It was at the live event right before the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and I believe I actually have that event on DVD as well. It was, I believe, ROH Killer Instinct in Rahway, New Jersey. And there's a reason I'm bringing it up. Huh?
Jay Lethal's hometown, well, close to it. He's from Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Yeah, but much like, you can consider Rahway his hometown in the same way you can consider Missisauga Elgin's hometown. So we'll give it to him. So the main event to that show was Jay Lethal versus Kevin Steen for the world title, and Lethal had come fairly close to winning it already, and then at one point, this is ridiculous, they go outside of the ring and end up fighting legitimately by Jay Lethal's parents, who are in the crowd in the front row. And Mrs. Lethal apparently gets pissed off enough and dumps her entire drink in Kevin Steen's face, which Kevin Steen then turns around and spits on Jay Lethal's parents, essentially completely setting off Jay Lethal, rightfully so, and to the point that they end up, I believe, throwing the match out because they now cannot contain Jay Lethal, and the entire thing is a complete and total schmoz. And, you know, they cannot control Lethal for the entirety of everything. Kevin Steen ends up running to the back with his belt, and as Harry mentioned, once Jay Lethal gets to the back, he ends up, and I'll say this, credit to Corny for taking this, because it's not something that he, you know, would take in 2012, maybe in 1985, but not 2012. And that is Jay Lethal absolutely chucks Cornette across a table, over some chairs, and takes out Cornette to the point that Cornette is not at the IPPV. And caused, you know, originally a lot of people thought it was a legitimate thing. I think we, you know, would find out later on that it wasn't, and it was just a really well done moment, and would cause all kinds of quote unquote legal ramifications where Kevin Steen would not defend the belt unless his demands were met. We'll find out what those are later on. And something happened with Lethal, and I don't even remember what, but that kind of led towards, you know, what's Jay Lethal's mindset going to be going into this match with Davey Richards. You know, gosh damn it, I think his mindset was fine because they had a pretty darn good match, and I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't really like Davey Richards.
Well, first of all, this is the beginning of the long-anticipated new leaf to Jay Lethal, and this is the beginning of what would become Jay Lethal Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. And the promo that Lethal has before the match is the important thing to discuss here. I mean, we can talk about the match itself, and yes, the match itself is really good. Very quick pace, lots of strong striking back and forth, lots of action back and forth, a lot of very good near falls. I completely bid on the Lethal injection as the finish, even though it wasn't. But the promo that Lethal cuts before the match is the important part here, in regards to him telling both Kevin Steen and then Ring of Honor, respectively, that they can both kiss his ass. It shows some much-needed personality that we hadn't really seen a ton of in Lethal's Ring of Honor run, and it eventually started Lethal on the path that would lead to the heel turn, which would lead to him taking the television title and then eventually becoming a double champion, taking the world title as well in 2013.
Yeah, indeed. So this, you know, like I said, this was an iPay-per-view, so they wanted kind of, you know, some big things to happen, and this, truth be told, if not for the last 30 seconds of the iPay-per-view, Jay Lethal's promo would have been the biggest thing to happen on this night when he told Ring of Honor and Kevin Steen both to kiss his ass. Like you said, starting the downfall of Jay Lethal's character, if you want to go that far.
Well, it's more of a case of it's a much needed burst of personality from Jay Lethal there. It's something that we hadn't really seen from Lethal in any the most charisma Jay Lethal had ever shown in any promotion was when he wasn't himself. It was when he was being Black Machismo in TNA. This was an opportunity to see the charisma and the personality and the character work of Jay Lethal, and frankly, it was fantastic.
I still wonder how the hell Jay Lethal is so good at impressions. And anyway, but yeah, this was, even though this was a good match and a long match, I believe either the longest or the second longest on the entire main event.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so second longest match. It was more about the character development of Jay Lethal was the thing to bring out of here. But make no mistake, Jay Lethal, while he for a long time may have been boring on the mic, I don't know that I would go so far as he has a legitimate claim of being the best first-generation wrestler in the world, but I would put him up there among the best that Ring of Honor has ever had in ring, because he is a very, very good wrestler. And might be one of the best in Ring of Honor history.
Oh, no, the question for Lethal was never his ability between the ropes. It was always his ability on the microphone and backstage as well, because Lethal was one of those guys who you could always count on to have a good match. The question is, where would you get out of him personality-wise, and would the fans care because would the fans connect? I think a lot of the time the biggest problem for Lethal, and this even goes back all the way to his earlier stuff in Ring of Honor, and I'm talking like back to the summer of Punk when he was feuding with Homicide. And the reason people liked Homicide more than they liked Lethal is because, let's be entirely honest here, Lethal on the microphone back then, Lethal on backstage interviews back then gave you no reason to care about him, whereas Homicide was all about personality.
Oh, trust me, I know Homicide and personality on the mic, and he still has it today. Anyway, but yeah, so, this match was worthy of being the last match before intermission. And I think that's part of the reason why it goes so long, is because they have a very good, very long match, and it kind of tires the crowd out a little bit. Almost to the point that I don't know that they'd ever recover. They seemed pretty quiet for the rest of the show after this match, which is something that I noticed. They may have just been...
Well, I'd say they got pretty loud again during the course of the Steen Elgin match, but yeah, for Edwards and Cole, which you think would have a lot better reaction, especially for a Briscoes match, because the Ring of Honor fans are always into the Briscoes. You would think that the fans would have been much more vocal for those matches, but what can you do?
Yeah, apparently. So, how am I all of a sudden blanking on who wins? Jay Lethal wins, right?
Lethal wins by knockout with the Koji clutch. Richards passes out in the Koji clutch.
Thank you. I knew he won one day. But yeah, so Jay Lethal wins not via lethal injection, which would become his trademark and his finisher, with Hail to the King being another signature move of his. But yeah, Richards and Lethal, like I said, I'm not a David Richards fan, and Harry knows this. There's a lot I don't like about him, but that's possibly not even a discussion to even have here. But a very good match here, but this was all about Jay Lethal.
Yeah, definitely more about Lethal and the personality that he's trying to develop rather than it is more about Davey Richards here. Richards is a former Ring of Honor champion at this point. I believe he would have dropped the title 6 months prior at the Big Bang in April of 2012 to Kevin Steen, and found himself slowly working his way down the card ever since then. If I'm not mistaken, the story, as I remember, is that Richards was supposed to retire at Final Battle 2012, and then obviously that didn't happen.
Do I say this or no?
Let's move on.
Davey Richards suffers from Terry Funk syndrome. I'll leave it at that.
That's fair, actually.
Yeah. Anyway, our next match. Oh boy, this is gonna be a weird one to cover. Our first match after intermission is supposed to be TD, Tadarius Thomas, versus Roderick Strong. Nope.
Well, because before we talk about what's supposed to happen here, let's get into the backstory as to why it's supposed to be that there. Because Roderick Strong is a member of the House of Truth, which was a group of wrestlers led by Truth Martini, a Chicago area wrestler actually, who would become better known as a manager. Who would become better known as a manager, specifically working with the House of Truth, even back to the days of Christian Abel and Josh Raymond, a.k.a. Abercrombie. the House of Truth at this point would evolve to being Roderick Strong, Michael Elgin, and to a lesser degree, the man who would end up in this match here, Rhino. Okay, continue.
Because at this point, well, Roderick actually cuts a promo and pretty much says what I'm about to say anyway. Because at this point, Roderick Strong had kind of improved beyond the House of Truth at this point. But at the same time, while he kind of had moved past the House of Truth, he was actually also, much like David Richards, being booked lower and lower. So in this case, Roderick Strong comes out in street clothes. He's not ready to wrestle, and cuts a promo saying that he thought that it was BS, that he was the first match after intermission and facing somebody the likes of Tindarius Thomas. So he said that he's quitting the House of Truth, which he kind of doesn't really put any emphasis into it. He just says, I'm quitting the House of Truth. And not, that's, if you're going to do something like that, you kind of need to put a little bit of oomph into it. And then he also says that he's going to sit front row and enjoy the rest of the pay-per-view as a fan, which he does. And later on, he responded, with beers in his hand, and I could have sworn I saw him smoking a cigar at one point, but that's neither here nor there. So Truth Martini panics, runs to the back, and finds Rhino, who is not ready for the match, and says, all right, then T.D. Thomas is going to face Rhino, and the match happens. And I just find the ridiculous part is that at one point Rhino's on offense and tells Truth, hey, go to the back and get my stuff. Rhino spends half the match still getting ready for the entire freaking match. Like, to the point he still has to put his wrist tape on. I believe at one point also Truth Martini douses him in baby oil. He spends half the match getting ready for the match he's currently in, which I found to be funny as hell, and I don't know why.
Your thoughts on Tindarius Thomas?
Not great. Maybe it was because of the fact that he was facing, such a stark contrast of an opponent. But I didn't think the match was that good. I didn't think Tindarius Thomas was that good.
I've never been impressed by him, and I think a lot of that has to do with he works kind of a mixed martial arts style. Technically, they classify it as capoeira.
I thought that was singing with no instruments.
No, that's a cappella. Quit trying to be funny. Anyways, so he wrestles this this variation of a martial arts style known as capoeira, and I don't think it necessarily translates with certain opponents, and I think Rhino was one of those opponents that it doesn't translate with. Although, to be fair, for everything that I've seen of Thomas, I've never really been impressed by him in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah, this one was not exactly a great match, and especially, I'm surprised that they would put something like this. This may have been also part of the reason why the crowd seemed a little dead until, the second half of the Briscoes match, is because you have a tiring match of Jay Lethal, then you have intermission, and then you come back with something like this. It just kind of drains you a little bit. It's not so much that it drains you as in it tires you, but it kind of just, this was the kind of match that just zapped the energy out of the crowd, I think.
I agree. I think the issue at hand, too, is that, let's look at the match that would come next immediately following this Tindarius Thomas and Rhino match here. I think you almost would have been better off putting this match up next on the card coming out of it, being the first match coming out of intermission here. Because while it's technically babyface versus babyface, it's two people that the crowd genuinely cares about.
Indeed.
Or at least, by and large, it's two people that the crowd genuinely cares about. And if you want to, we can transition this right into the very next match with the television title on the line.
Well, I was about to get into it real quick. Rhino wins.
Oh, do you want to talk about what happened? No, Tadarius Thomas wins, actually.
Man, I'm having a bad day.
Tadarius Thomas with an Oklahoma roll. Although, the important thing to discuss is what Rhino does to Truth Martini after the match.
Why don't you go through it, because I'll screw it up again.
So, obviously Martini or Rhino is not happy about losing. And you can kind of understand that, who wants to lose. So, Martini comes into the ring and appears to try to calm down Rhino, and Rhino proceeds to military press him over the top rope and into the guardrail. Notice I didn't say over the guardrail. I said into the guardrail. And the huge-ass bruise that ended up going onto Truth Martini's pants where they ripped, you can tell he hit that guardrail pretty freaking hard. Okay, now you discuss the guardrail.
All right. Yeah, Truth Martini may actually have taken the worst bump of the night with this. And I would even say worse than the Avalanche package pile driver. So obviously, as we see right now, the House of Truth is essentially collapsing within itself, considering what would happen with the main event, plus what happened before this match and what happened after this match. Truth Martini does not have very many friends, and it would kind of be the start of the downfall, which I believe would pretty squarely happen around Final Battle, and would somewhat lead to the start of the new House of Truth, which would lead to one of my favorite Ring of Honor shows of all time, which would happen the following July, I believe, with Truth Martini starting essentially the House of Hoopla instead of the House of Truth, with Matt Taven, Scarlett Bordeaux, and others who I probably shouldn't mention, especially I can mention Silesia Sparks also, but there's one other that I can't mention for fear of her husband beating the hell out of me because I see him on Friday. But it would lead to a change in mode for Truth Martini and the House of Truth in the future. What?
I got nothing else to add about this match.
Okay. Moving on then. It is the first of our 3 consecutive title matches. So the first one is for the World Television title. It is diehard Eddie Edwards, truth be told, my more favorite member of the American Wolves, obviously, facing off again.
Current TNA heavyweight champion.
No, I thought Lashley won it back already.
Spoiler!
Already!
No, he hasn't won it back yet. It hasn't aired.
I thought it did. Oops.
Doesn't air for like another 2 weeks.
Oops, sorry. Like, that's my fault. Did I get confused about that?
It's not our fault that TNA takes like 2 months worth of television at a time.
Yeah. Remember, folks, you think NXT's bad, TNA. Anyway, and he's facing the World Television Champion, Adam Cole. Hang on! Pre-BAYBAY.
He's in the process of becoming BAYBAY in PWG. Heel Adam Cole is starting to show his true colors inside of PWG. He would have just won the 2012 Battle of Los Angeles at this point, acting like a complete and total tool bag the entire time.
What else is new? Adam Cole's a tool bag. Anyway, so yeah, this was still face Adam Cole. This was the Adam Cole that was still riding the high off of having 2 of his teeth knocked out and his nose almost broken, like Kyle O'Reilly in their Hybrid Rules match in New York. So this one's very much face Adam Cole.
That reminds me, I can say I can say this and get away with it because he's only the producer for this show, so he won't get mad at me. Because I know this is a very unpopular opinion. I am so glad Kyle O'Reilly's not on this show. One Davey Richards wannabe was enough. Anywho.
I like Kyle, so.
Can't stand him. Comes off as Davey Richards Jr. to me. Always has.
Used to. I think he made it his own thing finally. But part of that is me seeing Kyle and Davey together in AAW and seeing that, no, Kyle actually was able to spawn off and become his own thing. So, but that's neither here nor there and not the show to talk about. But yeah, so this is the Adam Cole that the WWE said, work on character development and then come talk to us. Because that's legitimately what kept him from going to the WWE in, I believe, around this point, in 2012, maybe 2013, was that this Adam Cole is what Jay Lethal was facing Homicide. Babyface, but no character development. Adam Cole definitely would get that character development, at least in Ring of Honor, around the time that he won, well, actually the night he won his first World Championship when he beat Michael Elgin in the finals of the tournament after Jay Briscoes' whole thing. So this was an interesting match that I think was still heard by the crowd. You know, because I mentioned the crowd being kind of out of it. This match might have been affected the most because, like you mentioned, Harry, this is two legitimate baby faces in the company, two people that the crowd legitimately care about. Because I'm a big fan of Eddie Edwards, and these are two very good wrestlers. Adam Cole, once again, not where he would be, you know, by the time he wins his first world title and by the time he ends up coming back to Ring of Honor and winning it the second time. But once again, in the ring, very few are as good as Adam Cole. Eddie Edwards, another one who might be one of the legitimate best wrestlers that ROH ever had. You could also say that about Roderick Strong as well. So for the crowd to be just dead silent for the entirety of this match is a weird thing to notice, a weird thing to see.
Do you think it's hurt by the face-face dynamic?
Normally, I would say yes, in the case of, well, the crowd doesn't know who to cheer for, but I wouldn't think so because you have two guys that the crowd genuinely love at this point, you know, with Edwards and Cole. So I don't know that would have hurt that in this case. So it's a hard thing to speak about.
See, I'm inclined to say that it does hurt the match here. And honestly, they get off to kind of a slow start, too, which I think hurts the match as well because of the fact that, given what was preceding them and the fact that there was the long intermission following the very long Lethal and Richards match, this crowd had been kind of silent for a while here. And then them getting off to the slow start that they did to this match doesn't help matters either. Like, I genuinely like both of these guys. I've always preferred Eddie over Davey, and Adam Cole has always stood out to me as being the better member of Future Shock, and it wasn't even close in my opinion.
Well, I think one thing that helps them is that while Adam Cole doesn't have the charisma that he would, you know, develop months and years on, still had a hell of a lot more charisma than Kyle O'Reilly did. So, yeah, he's the more likable half. And as you mentioned, Adam Cole does win via the Florida Key, you know, over, how many moves does he have? He's got the last call, which is a.k.a. the Hellbound, a.k.a. the Tiebreaker, a.k.a. God knows how many other things. And the Panama Sunrise is
the Destroyer.
Destroyer.
He's also known for using the super kick as well, but yeah, his main finishes though are the.
Okay, real quick. Look at the group he's in. Of course, he uses the damn super kick. Everyone does.
As far as Cole's main finishes though are the Florida Key and the Panama City Sunset, or the Panama City Sunrise, excuse me.
So, I believe it was the Panama Sunrise that won of the first World Championship, but it was the last call that won him his most recent.
The most recent one was against Lethal at the most recent Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. All right. Uh-oh.
Problems?
Low battery. Got to plug in. I'm good. Carry on.
Okay. So then, moving on, it is our second title match of the night here. And it is for the World Tag Team Championships. It is Demboys, since day one. Jay and Mark, the Briscoe brothers, taking on two out of the, at this point, three representatives of SCUM, the World Tag Team Champions, Steve Carino, and the Zombie Princess, Jimmy Jacobs. And there was no wrestling in this one. This was a fight. Pure and simple. That's what this was. This was a brawl, which is exactly what it was always going to be. There was no handshaking. There was no wrestling. This was just a fight. I will say this. Comments that he made aside, I do prefer Jay over Mark. I do think Mark is pretty much an idiot. And I've never liked Redneck Kung Fu. I just think he comes off as a complete and total moron.
I actually like Mark Briscoe. I mean, let's be honest here. The comments that Jay Briscoe made were very unfortunate and probably cost him and Mark a job in the WWE, let's be honest.
Yeah, no doubt.
That being said, though, I've always found both of the Briscoes entertaining inside of the ring. I get a kick out of Redneck Kung Fu, and I've always enjoyed Froggy Bo.
I'm more of a Jay Driller guy.
Oh, no, between the two of them, the Jay Driller is definitely the better finishing move than Froggy Bo. Although I did like Mark's old finisher back when he was first getting started in Ring of Honor, the cutthroat driver, which was the wrist capture burning hammer that he used to use.
Oh, interesting.
It was he would wrap the arm around the throat and then lift him up into the inverted fireman's carry and then down into the burning hammer.
Sounds dangerous. Well, not that the Jay Driller said he was dangerous. But yeah, this was not a wrestling match. This was a fight, and to the point that they used the guardrail. I believe Carino used a roll of quarters and decked, I think, Jay. That one's escaping me. I think it was Jay that he decked with a roll of quarters. This was never going to be a wrestling match. They could have just called this a no disqualification match, and I don't know that there really would have been any difference. And
I'm not entirely sure that it wasn't a no disqualification match. I mean, because a lot of things got let go, even regardless of whether or not the referee may or may not have seen them. Yeah, they hit the roll of quarters. The referee was distracted by Mark, and I think they had put Mark down on the floor. And it was Jay that got struck with the roll of quarters. And I think they had the referee distracted while Jacobs hit Mark. While Jacobs hit Jay with the roll of quarters.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And like we said, in the end, there were a couple of pretty good moves. I did like that the Briscoes actually used at least a form, because they didn't do it as a backbreaker. They just did it as a sidewalk slam. So it wasn't a full-on, but a form of the demolition decapitation. And then you also had Jacobs hitting the assisted contra code. I think it was contra code. It was either
yeah.
contra code or the slice bet number 2. It's the same thing.
Jacobs calls it contra code.
Yeah.
Up, down, down. Up, down, down. BA, start, select.
No! You fail!
It is too. It's up, down, down. BA, start, select.
No! Up, down, left, right, BA, start.
I forgot about the left, right. Son of a bitch.
I know, and the reason I know that so much is because one of my very good friends has that tattooed on his arm. Because he's such a huge video game fan. Up his forearm. Anyway, but that was probably my favorite move of the match, was the assisted one, because Carino sends Jacobs over for the contra code. So I did like that one quite a bit. Although, to be fair, even though Jacobs does call it the contra code, Kelly called it the slice sprint.
Well, technically that's known as the shear and a wee, but that's beside the point. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Irish Airborne used to use a version of that assisted slice spread as well? Or am I thinking of like zero, or was it zero gravity?
I believe it was zero gravity. The name of it escapes me though. I'm so used to them hitting Flippy Cup now. If they ever wrestle in AAW, they wrestle in the LaSalle shows now, not the main shows.
Well, yeah, right, but that's neither here nor there. We're getting off topic again.
Yeah. So, in the end, though,
do you know what SCUM stands for?
I did for the longest time, and I have spent 2 days trying to remember it.
Well, it actually doesn't stand for what I thought it did.
What did you think it stood for?
My original thought to it was that SCUM stood for Some Call Us Monsters.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of.
Suffering, chaos, ugliness, and mayhem.
That sounds about right. And when you're talking ugliness, Steve Carino's definitely in there.
I'm gonna go ahead and let that one go. I'm not gonna touch that.
I'm just glad he didn't have the blonde hair anymore for this match.
The blonde hair was a bit of an eyesore. But no, my thought process is that I just feel like the name Some Call Us Monsters fit, you know? I mean, think about the 3 people involved at this point here. You had Zombie Princess Jimmy Jacobs, who, let's be frankly honest about it, had lost his freaking mind by this point. Steve Carino, who would never be accused of being mentally stable. And Kevin Steen was the most dangerous man in professional wrestling at this point.
Just ask Jim Cornette.
I question how much of their beef was real and how much of it was worked.
Remember, Cornette said on public, on a public microphone that he never saw Kevin Steen doing more than wrestling in gyms. And when Kevin Steen A, debuted in NXT, and then again when he B, won the Universal title, Jim Cornette had no choice but to rescind his comments. So maybe some of it was a work, but it seemed like a lot of it was real. So and this is coming at the point where, we're coming out of it being Smoky Mountain of Wrestling. So, or rather, Smoky Mountain of Honor, damn it. I knew what I meant. So,
all right.
But in the end, though, yes. Briscoes have Jimmy Jacobs up for the Doomsday device, which they used to beat SCUM back in August. However, Steve Corino pushes, I believe it was referee Paul Turner, into the ring rope, knocking one Briscoe off of the top rope, and then absolute, just mind-numbing nut shot of a low blow. I mean, that kick was long up and good by Steve Corino, and Jimmy Jacobs does a rather beautiful victory roll for the victory, so SCUM ends up retaining their tag team titles.
Yes. Corino kicked Jay about as hard as he possibly could in the jewels.
I think he crushed the grapefruits.
Indeed. He turned them into little raisins. All right, anywho. So yeah. Jacobs and Corino retain the tag team titles. I believe they'd actually dropped the tag team titles to the Briscoes at Final Battle.
Thus starting the downfall of SCUM.
Yes. All right.
So, that brings us to our main event. It is for the Ring of Honor World Championship. It is the champion, Kevin Steen. The man smells gold everywhere he goes, literally. Facing off against the kind of hometown hero, Unbreakable Michael Elgin.
Hometown boy. Hey, don't you disrespect the mullet. If a man has the stones to pull off the mullet, I say more power to him.
Here. We'll put it this way. Michael Elgin is from Toronto. The reason he's the hometown hero is because his mullet grew up in Missisauga because the thing is so damn big.
Yes. I'm not saying everybody can rock a mullet, but if Michael Elgin asked me if he could rock a mullet, I would tell him that mullet looks fantastic. Unfortunately now, 5 years later, he took all the hair that was on his head in his wallet and made it a beard. Yeah, I don't know what the hell is up with Captain Caveman Elgin, but this is pre-Caveman Elgin. This is, as previously mentioned, still the, what was the nickname he was using back then? Well, besides Unbreakable. He still uses Unbreakable. There was another nickname.
Yeah. It wasn't Big Mike.
All right, but to the match itself here. First,
hang on.
I was just about to introduce you for this. Let's first talk about Kevin Steen's promo before the match.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Indeed. As we mentioned during the Jay Lethal and Davey Richards match, this would come at a time, this was post Jay Lethal completely snapping in Rahway. And Kevin Steen pretty much said that he would not defend the belt on this IPPV unless his demands were met. Obviously, his demands would be met. So there were a couple of them. One of them being that he was going to have the new Ring of Honor World Championship made, which I believe would be debuted by Final Battle.
I think it debuted on television right before Final Battle, if memory serves.
Possibly. A couple joking ones, like 80% of the proceeds from all of the T-shirts were going into his pocket, and then he said, yes, I wrestle with pockets, what about it? I'm trying to remember the other one before we get to the major one?
Well, one of them was that Jay Lethal was not allowed to be in the ring with him anymore.
Well, yeah, Jay Lethal could not be in the same ring. Also, Jay Lethal's parents were barred from any building that they were in. But the big one, the major one, the one that would play into this match, from here on out, Kevin Steen would be allowed to use the package pile driver, which had been barred by Jim Cornette. And obviously that would play a role in the match tonight, as now all of a sudden, okay, that, very dangerous move would be allowed back in. Would Kevin Steen use it? Well, as we found out, boy, would he use it. As far as the match itself, getting into the match itself, this is not the kind of matchup that you would think of when you think Ring of Honor. And I don't mean that in a negative way. But usually when you think Ring of Honor, you think kind of smaller, more fast-paced, more technical, high-flying kind of aspect of wrestling. Would you not?
By and large, you would generally think that, especially given all the young talent on the roster at this time.
So, yeah, when you think of, Unbreakable Michael Elgin, who's, a freaking brick house of a man, he's a little bit taller than I am. And the man can deadlift pretty much whatever he damn well pleases on that day. And Kevin Steen, who's, by this point, he had gained weight, but he had never exactly been a small man himself. I can definitely tell that there's a difference between the Kevin Steen that we see here 5 years ago, in terms of size, with Kevin Owens. Kevin Steen seems bigger.
Kevin Steen was 6'1" and 270 pounds. At that time, he was about 270. He's about 255 now, 250, 255 now. Michael Elgin's build, height, and weight are 5'11" and 245 pounds, and I sincerely doubt that there's much fat there, though. That dude is built like a brick house.
Yeah, like I said, Michael Elgin is the kind of man that he will lift whatever he wants. If he wanted to lift my house, he probably could. If he wanted to lift the Sears Tower in Chicago, Sears, not Willis, shut up, he probably could. Like, the man is absolutely unreal with his strength. So, this is not the kind of match that you would expect to have at Ring of Honor. But, be that as it may, this was still a hell of a match. Like I said, it was the longest match of the night. And they would put up a fight between these two men. Back and forth for almost the entire night. A little bit of a finisher fest. I won't lie. To the point that there was one moment in the match that I bought and the fans bought when they were there, especially with all of the time that was taken about the package pile driver and everything. So then when Steen finally hits it, the fans bought it so much that they started throwing streamers expecting Steen to have retained his title. 1, 2, Elgin kicks out, which blew everybody away, including Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness, who at this point they kind of threw a little bit of professionalism out the window and started treating it as fans. But for some reason, I had no problem with them doing this. I know Nigel has always taken flag on his commentary in Ring of Honor. Kevin Kelly has too. I personally didn't mind them, and I got a kick out of them kind of really getting into the match and being excited about it.
Yes, this was the match that Nigel was the second most into on the evening, behind Bennett and Mondo.
He wasn't even into that match. He was just into Maria.
Well, she was part of the match.
I guess. Anyway. But, yeah, I had no problems with their commentary for this one.
Can I give a thought here as to what I think here? Kind of hindsight being 20/20 and all. Don't get me wrong. The finish is visually impressive. Elgin getting dropped on his dome off the second rope with the package pile driver is an impressive visual finish here. But I think having the package pile driver just being unbanished here, they'd have probably been better off finishing this match with F-Sync.
With what?
F-Sync, Steen's version of the F5.
Oh. See, personally, and I usually don't like these things, but to kind of play into everything, I almost wouldn't have minded if Steen hits it, like hits the package, Elgin kicks out, Steen snaps, hits it like 1 or 2 or 3 more times for the victory, just to kind of put it over a little bit, or just not even give Elgin a chance to kick out and just hit it like 2 or 3 times, just to kind of put the move over a little bit, you know, after all the time they get into it, and then they just have him kick out of it.
You mean kind of like what we saw with the Taker versus Faker with the tombstones there? How Taker hit the tombstone 3 times at the end of the match without going for a cover until the third one?
I think that was more of putting Under Faker out of his misery, kind of. But, yes.
Okay. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I
understand where you're coming
that
from
one
there.
was. I don't think that one was to put the tombstone over. I think that one was just to kind of rid the world of Under Faker. In this case, I'm saying put the move over.
No, but I understand what you're saying here. Almost to the point of overkill, though. It's like it's Kevin Steen rubbing it into Jim Cornette's face. Ha ha, screw you, I got my move back.
Yeah. So that's kind of my idea there. But yeah, it's for Kevin Steen to hit a package pile driver, like you said, an avalanche package pile driver off the second rope is absolutely impressive in itself. And thank God that was the finish, because
there would have been a significant amount of backlash if Elgin would have kicked out of that.
Yeah, so there's no doubt about that. You know, and
I would have
said in his promo. Yeah, Kevin Steen said in his promo, "I will break the unbreakable one," and I would say he did. Now, unfortunately, as good as the match was, people forgot about the match 2 minutes after its final bell.
100% legit. Go ahead and explain.
And I liked how they did it. I thought it was creative, but yeah, it kind of made the match seem meaningless in legitimately 2 minutes. Todd Sinclair counts to 3. 1, 2, 3, done. Kevin Steen's music hits, and then Kevin Steen's, while he's celebrating, referee Paul Turner comes down to ringside and gives Nigel a box. Not wrapped or anything, just has some tape on it, just a box. And tells Nigel that he was given the explicit instructions that if Kevin Steen retained his world championship, Nigel had to give Kevin Steen this box, whatever the hell is in it, immediately after the match. I mentioned that I was going to talk about Kevin Steen also making a comment that made me laugh my ass off. And it happens at this point. Because after it happens, where Paul Turner comes out, Kevin Steen's theme stops playing. to which you can hear him. He's not on a mic, but you can hear him on camera go, "Where the hell's my music?" And he gets angry about it, and he says, "Well, it's an iPay-per-view with this company. Something has to go wrong." I had to pause the video because I could not stop laughing because of how right he was. Because this is at a point where ROH was having something go wrong with every iPay-per-view that they had. This one legitimately was the first one to run smoothly in 2.5 years. Either the streams died, I think one of them, the power went out, or something happened. They were having issues left and right. People couldn't log in. So when he said that, I could not stop laughing for about 2 minutes. But moving on. So Nigel gets on a mic and says, "I've been given instructions. I have to give you this now." Kevin Steen takes it, opens it up, pulls the newspaper out, and he cannot believe what he had seen. The crowd kind of gave it away, though, like immediately before when they started chanting. When they started chanting "Olay," Kevin Steen pulls out an El Generico mask. El Generico had not been seen in Ring of Honor in at least several months. It may have actually been it may have been, I think, several months, if not almost a year.
6 months.
6 months. Okay. I'm getting one of their matches mixed up.
April of 2012 when he wrestled Kevin Steen in I want to say it was Last Man Standing match at Showdown in the Sun Night 1.
The La Revancha match.
Is that what we're going with? Was that what they called it?
That's what that whole point was, because Generico wanted revenge, so they called it La Revancha. But that had been the last time. So, sorry.
Unofficially speaking, though, I think it was a Last Man Standing. It might have been a Texas Death Match, actually.
That may have been the one that either Carino or Jacobs helped to start SCUM.
It's entirely possible. I mean, it's been a while since I've watched Showdown in the Sun, so I don't specifically remember the show, but you might be right.
So, Kevin Steen pulls out the mask, and the crowd, rightfully so, freaks. And this would be what they would be going with for the next 2 months until we got to Final Battle, where I believe it would be El Generico's, I think you're right, I believe it would be El Generico's final Ring of Honor match, in which Kevin Steen and El Generico would have one final match in a ladder war for Kevin Steen's world title, which Steen would retain and would go on to retain until whatever their iPay-per-view was, WrestleMania weekend in New Jersey.
That's when Roderick took the title off of Steen, right?
No, Jay Briscoe.
Was Jay Briscoe?
Jay Briscoe. Jay Briscoe won the belt in New Jersey.
I get my
8th title attempt.
I get my ROH title history confused around the 2011, 2012, 2013 time frame because they moved the title around so often over the course of those years there that it was difficult to keep up with.
Yeah. From there, he would hold on to the title until he was stripped of it due to injury, a.k.a. they stripped him because of the backlash from his comments, which would lead to the tournament where Adam Cole would win his first world championship at Death Before Dishonor.
I thought Cole's title win was that Death Before Dishonor 9 or whatever. I think it was
11.
The four-man tournament.
Was it 4? I thought it was 8.
Well, it was 4 at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think it was 8 because the final was Elgin and Cole.
But I think it was only the semifinals and the final at the pay-per-view, though.
Possibly. So.
All right.
So yeah, the crowd kind of went home a little bit happy, knowing that one of the heroes would be returning, and the crowd also pretty much went home forgetting the fact that their hometown boy had just lost. And in that case, fade to black.
You know, I'm going to give the crowd a pass on this one here because of how popular El Generico was and what he meant to Ring of Honor from the time that he finally established himself in Ring of Honor back in 05-06 all the way up until the time of his departure in April of 2012. The fact is that Generico was one of the most popular guys in that locker room with that fan base there, and to this day remains one of the most popular figures in Ring of Honor history.
And sad that he had to leave.
Well, those orphans weren't going to rescue themselves.
I know. It's also nice that his former rival, Kevin Steen, was able to go down and join him in raising those orphans.
We've heard different stories. I heard Kevin Steen went down there to finish the job that he started, and we just never got any updates.
Oh, that's weird. I thought I heard him say that he was going down to help the orphans, too.
I feel like I'm behind on I'm feeling like this is a reference from a Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show I haven't watched yet.
It may be, because I think that's where I heard it.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I don't take anything that Kevin Steen says at face value.
But how do you know that he's going to go finish the job? Anyway. So that was Ring of Honor Glory by Honor 11 from Missisauga, Ontario, Canada.
Missisauga.
You're going to say it right.
And no, I'm not, because we don't have enough time for that. We have to get into the big finish.
I know. And indeed, let us jump right into the big finish. As always, it is our best and our worst match, and our cash and our trash for this show. We usually start off with the best and the worst match. So why don't we go with what in your opinion is the worst match on this show?
That's actually a difficult question to answer. And the reason I say that is because there are 3 different matches that I think qualify here. And they qualify for 3 different reasons.
I can think of 2.
I'm going to go with T.D. Thomas and Rhino. And the reason I'm going to go with T.D. Thomas and Rhino is I feel like if you're going to use somebody like Rhino on this show, and if you're going to use him to put over a young talent on your show, you shouldn't do it in such a fluky manner. And it's the entire way that it came across with the finish with Truth distracting Rhino, which led to the Oklahoma roll, because I actually think, didn't Truth hit Rhino with the Book of Truth, which led to the roll-up?
Possibly.
Almost certain. So, if you're going to have somebody like Rhino coming in and working the show, and you're going to end up having him, Jesus, I'm having a night tonight. If you're going to have somebody like Rhino working this show here, and you're going to use him to put over your younger talent, then you need to do so in a way that doesn't come across as flukish and actually establishes that talent as legitimate rather than him getting lucky due to an accidental assist.
That makes sense. Out of curiosity, what are your other 2?
Mondo and Bennett.
Yeah.
I was actually disappointed by the tag title match. I didn't care for it.
Right.
I like all 4 participants, but I didn't care for the match.
Alrighty. For me, for me, actually, is a tag match, but not the tag title match. For me, it's Haas and Benjamin versus Titus and Whitmer. It's just it seemed like everybody just clashed, kind of iffy, and with the fact that at this point the crowd just did not give a rat's ass, not only about wrestling's greatest tag team, but it felt like the match itself, or the entire match itself, in terms of who was in it. Especially also with the fact that, at least with Mondo and Bennett not having a great match, you can kind of, you have an out for that in the fact that Mondo broke his leg in the match, so it's a miracle that he finished it. T.D. Thomas and Rhino was weird, but not altogether bad. This one, though, I was not a fan of the entire match itself, and then, obviously a lot of cheating to win, it seemed like, at times. I have to give this one a thumbs down. So, alrighty, so we go from the worst to the best. What's your favorite match of this show?
Again, difficult for two different reasons. Because if we're talking about actual bell-to-bell content, it's the main event. But if we're talking in terms of progression, it's going to be Richards and Lethal. I'm going to give a slight edge to Elgin and Steen because I actually, by and large, found myself more emotionally invested in the course of that match, bell-to-bell. But I think character-wise, this was probably the most important show in Jay Lethal's career.
Pick one.
I already said Elgin and Steen.
Good, because I'm taking the other one, you jerk. and like I said, I mentioned it earlier, and I've mentioned it in previous episodes, I'm not a fan of Davey Richards. But in this case, this match was not about Davey Richards. This was about Jay Lethal and the progression of Jay Lethal and the proof that Jay Lethal could go up and have a great match against probably a broomstick, or, in this case, a headbutting, spitting machine in Davey Richards, and have one hell of a match. And in this case, he did. And adding the fact that he cut kind of what was the first of his many heel promos, where he finally got a chance to show a little something, it would only legitimately be onward and upward from here for him in terms of the greatness that he would become. And it's a shame that it took this long for him to be able to finally show something and have a chance to bring out a little bit of charisma as Jay Lethal and not as Black Machismo, or as he would be at Night of Hoopla the following July, Machismo King, where he and Delirious would have one of the greatest move-for-move impressions of a match I've ever seen. But that's neither here nor there. So for me, this was the Jay Lethal show, not the Kevin Steen show, like he said in his promo.
Well, just real quick, as far as that whole this whole situation with Lethal goes, honestly, I think you can attest to Lethal's character finally being flushed out once he finally got aligned with Truth Martini. Do you agree or disagree with that?
He was showing what he had, but yeah, it wouldn't be until he got Truth Martini and Taylor Hendricks at his side that would finally come full circle.
Like, don't get me wrong, by and large, the House of Truth was a failure in Ring of Honor, but that being said, the biggest successes clearly came from when Martini was managing Lethal.
Muted.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about that.
The recording has started.
So, alright. So we go from that to our cash and our trash. So, why don't we get the trash out of the way, only because, sorry, Harry, I know I said I wasn't going to gripe about it, but I'm going to gripe about it. So, what's your trash for this?
I'll go ahead and let you go first, since you seem so adamant.
Well, I still wanted to give you a fair shake.
No, because I have something else to discuss, so go ahead.
All right. This was not the Sinclair run Ring of Honor that we would come to see later on. And it shows. My God, the production of this was terrible. At times, the music itself was too loud to where you couldn't hear the crowd or the commentators. Their cameras, as somebody with a background in broadcasting, particularly with video broadcasting, anytime I see a show where A, their cameras have glare, or B, their cameras aren't focused, or C, their hard cam isn't white balanced, it drives me up a wall. I mentioned it when we talked about the PWG shows where it sounded like their commentary was in a broom closet, mostly because chances are they were. I know I've griped about it on a couple other aspects. I believe the shaky cameras that we had during NCW Femme Fatale 5 and here. Their hard cam was really bright at times, especially in the main event. It was really bright. The glare on a camera drives me nuts because that can be fixed. And then how can you not know how loud to play your music? You play it so you can hear it. You don't play it so you drown everybody out, including your own commentators. It drove me up a wall the entire night. And I know you're going to say this, that I usually go into these shows looking for this. I don't. If they come to me, they come to me, but I don't go in looking for this. I go in to watch a good show and have a good time. But stuff like that takes away from me. If you're going to be a professional company, look professional. Don't look like crap. In this case, I thought the show looked like crap.
Do you feel better?
Yes. Thank you. So, Harry, what is your trash for this?
I think my biggest problem with Ring of Honor is the fact that they try to squeeze too much into their given show times. It becomes an issue more so in more modern times here, and it was definitely an issue when the company first started. I feel like this had maybe a match too many. I feel like there was plenty of other potential in matches on this show, and that a couple of the matches that did happen on this show didn't need to happen, and that time could have been interspersed elsewhere to give other matches a chance to shine. And what I mean by that is stuff like that aforementioned Whitmer and Titus versus Wrestling Serious that you talked about there. I think if you would have given that time to a couple of the other matches on the card, such as maybe adding a little bit more time to the Jacobs and Carino versus Briscoes tag match there, maybe adding a little bit of that time to give Rhino and T.D. Thomas a chance to put on a match that actually made T.D. Thomas look like something other than a fluke victory. Or even if you used it to give maybe a little bit more time to Edwards and Adam Cole in order to help them establish more of a presence in their match rather than them kind of going through the motions for the first half of it there. I think time management was a distinct disadvantage to this show here because I felt like there were too many matches, and I felt also like a couple of the matches, there were a couple of matches that didn't get enough time, and there were a couple of matches that got too much.
Alrighty. Fair enough. So let's switch gears, and since I started the first one, do you want me to start with Cash too?
I have a very funny feeling that we may end up agreeing on this one.
I don't think so. So why don't you start us off this time? What's your Cash for this?
Jay Lethal's promo. And the fact that we actually finally got a chance to see Lethal showing something resembling a personality. As I said, Lethal between the ropes has never been questioned. I've been a fan of his ever since his Black Machismo days in TNA. The Black Machismo character was interesting, but it wasn't Jay Lethal. It was him doing an impersonation of somebody that wrestling fans loved and still love to this day. Rest in peace, Randy. This right here was the beginning of the true coming out party for Jay Lethal. And it would lead to him becoming, he would proclaim himself as the greatest first-generation wrestler of all time. It would also lead to him becoming arguably the biggest rising star in Ring of Honor history. As a guy who started out as a nobody in Special K and took himself all the way to the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title. Patrick, what's your cash?
Mine is along the same lines, but more. And that is the overall development that you see on this show. Because while the matches were good, you know, a lot of them were very good, this entire show, it felt like, was less about finishing off the storylines and more about developing other things. This was a show that was not needed. They could have done all of this on a TV show and gone straight through to Final Battle. But I do applaud all of the development that they were able to come out with. They made SCUM as the tag team champions look like a legitimate threat. You know, with the Lolo and picking up the victory over the Ring of Honor originals in Mark and Jay Briscoe. Kevin Steen now looks like a certified badass after breaking the Unbreakable Michael Elgin. And then, of course, Jay Lethal's promo and, you know, his match and everything, plus all the stuff that happens with Roderick Strong and dumping off the House of Truth, plus Rhino dumping off the House of Truth. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, Truth Martini was never actually out there for the main event, if I'm not mistaken. So this was a whole show of character development, and occasionally you need that. And I applaud them for having a show like that and not having so much of a show that was, no, let's just have every great match in the world and who cares about other things, which does happen. You know, where you have a great match, but nothing advances. And I think that's one of Ring of Honor's problems is they'll have great matches, but nothing will advance. So I applaud them for having a show that actually felt like it focused more on advancement than on just having good matches. And they were able to do both here, especially with two of them. You know, the world title match and the survival of the survival of the fittest rematch of Lethal and Richards. So that's my cash there, is them having a show that was essentially full of character development. So, that brings us to our final thing. It is our final rating, 1 through 10. This should be mighty interesting. Harry, what final score do you give Glory by Honor?
I mentioned that there were a couple of duds on this show. I didn't care for Rhino and Tadarius Thomas because, as I said, it made Tadarius look like a fluky victor. I didn't care for I didn't think that the Adam Cole-Eddie Edwards match ever really got out of first gear despite going almost 19 minutes. And I think a lot of that had to do with crowd reaction, too, though. You mentioned the Haas and Benjamin versus Whitmer and Titus match there. That got off to a really rough start as well, and never really found its way. But in my opinion, wasn't quite as wasteful as Rhino and Thomas was. That being said, you had a really fun opening match in the CNC Wrestle Factory versus the Bravado Brothers. You had a very good Davey Richards and Jay Lethal match, and we've mentioned many times on this show that neither one of us are particularly fans of Davey Richards, but He more than held his own and made Lethal look like a superstar that night. Kevin Steen and Michael Elgin, in my opinion, was the best match on the show, and that's even putting it up against a very good match between Lethal and Richards. I think the good definitely outweighs the bad when you factor in the counterbalance of the two major storylines that are told. The destruction of the House of Truth and the beginning of the launch of the evolution of Jay Lethal. Add in an additional bonus of the return, or the teasing of the return of El Generico, and in my opinion, our first Ring of Honor show that we cover on this show gets an 8 from me. Patrick?
Very good. Like I said, I felt like this was a show that was more or less full of character development. And focused more on that than on the matches. And the matches still came. But in this case, the matches themselves were, by and large, at the very least, not bad. You know, the opener was a fun one to get the crowd into it, like you said. After that, the next two matches were kind of meh. Then you go into, you know, one of the longest and one of the best matches, and you come out in the second half with two kind of meh matches and finish actually also with another kind of meh match and then finish very strongly. That being said, while most of the matches weren't terrible, it's not a bad show, production aspects aside. I'm able to overlook that because a lot of the wrestling is very good. So I don't know that I would go that high, though. I think for me, the good most definitely outweighs the bad. I don't know that I would go that high, though, in terms of, you did say 8, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I can't go that high. But I would still say a 7. This is a very good show. I do think Final Battle would end up being an even better show, especially with the ladder war to finish. But this was by no means a bad show. It's weird, though, that you would have a show more focused on character development than anything, and would also be a show that more featured kind of the younger talent. Look at, 3 out of 4 in the very first match. Relatively young talent. And Bennett, and then Titus, and then Lethal, I would actually still give the credit as younger talent, because this would be the first major footing that he would get in Ring of Honor, and it would only go onward and upward from here. So I will still say a 7. With a probably a point possibly being deducted from production issues that I have, but that's me. So, we still largely agree, though, on a final score. You say 8, I say 7. So, we are now finished with our very first ever venture to Ring of Honor. And the funny part is, Harry, we're not actually going to have to go that far next week, are we?
What do you mean? Well, I mean,
that's right. Mississauga. We're going to have to go from Mississauga to Toronto.
Oh, you mean geographically? Yes.
I mean geographically. Although, truth be told, if you look at a lot of the roster, we're still not going that far.
That's legit. Quite a few people who are on this Ring of Honor show ended up joining us for our next show that we're covering as well. It is the pay-per-view that we didn't get to cover. Oh, he's dead.
Huh?
The receiver for the Chiefs just took a major hit.
Oh, okay. Anyway, moving on. So, yes, next week, it will be The Woo2M that you were supposed to get and are getting 2 months late. 4 months late, Jesus. That you're getting a couple of months late. So next week, in our final show before the Royal Rumble, we will go back and talk about the 2016, the 30th annual Survivor Series from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, featuring one of the longest matches in WWE history and one of the shortest main events in WWE history, as it is Raw versus SmackDown. It will be a 5 tag team versus 5 tag team match, 5 Raw teams versus 5 SmackDown teams, 5 females from both rosters, and 5 males from both rosters in a battle for brand supremacy. And then in the main event...
And what a long freaking main event it is.
Oh my gosh, such a long main event. It is the mega match 12 years later. Brock Lesnar takes on Goldberg in the main event. Folks, if you're still listening, please stop laughing. We promise we'll do it justice.
By which we mean we'll talk for it for all of exactly 1 minute and 26 seconds.
We are not imposing WCW rules yet.
Okay, they're not going to get that reference. I do, so it's funny to me. Sean does, so it's funny to him. But nobody else out there will have any idea what you mean by that.
I haven't explained that to Sean yet, so he probably doesn't get it either.
I did explain it to Sean, so welcome to the party.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, and folks, for those that don't understand it, which is everyone, don't worry. We'll explain when the time comes.
That time will be April 9th, 2017. April 16th, excuse me. My mistake. April 9th, we're doing WrestleMania 9 because we hate ourselves.
Yes, indeed. So, that will be an interesting one, and it might actually be an easy night. We'll only have like 6 matches to talk about again. But that will indeed be next week. So thank you very much for joining us this week. And, as always, what?
I'm doing the plugs here. You hush your mouth. The preceding episode of Wrestling Unwrapped was brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy. I got hiccups all of a sudden, out of nowhere. Hiccups out of nowhere. That's Randy Orton's new finish. It's brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. DVDs, action figures, VHS tapes, magazines, posters, pretty much anything wrestling related you can think of, you can find it inside the Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped and receive a free gift with your purchase. One of these days I'm just going to actually record this so we can just press a button and play it. So that way I don't constantly screw it up every single frickin' time.
Indeed. And as always, this show is a presentation of the W2M Network. For more information, like our written review of this, which will be next week, early this week, either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the absolute latest.
I'm estimating Tuesday.
Okay, fair enough. Along with a written review, possibly, of ECW December to Dismember, our first ever episode, and, of course, any other information that you may want, including great articles written by people like Sean Garmer, myself, Harry Broadhurst, and the many, many other writers of the W2M Network. Be sure to check out W2Mnet.com. So, until next week, for Harry Broadhurst, for Sean Garmer, I'm Patrick Hetta. Thank you, as always, for joining us here on Wrestling Unwrapped as we talk about Ring of Honor, Glory by Honor 11, the Unbreakable Hope here on the W2M Network.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.